Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me today. This is Marilyn Gale. Today, I want to talk about and tell you some background about Lebo M. His full name, and I'm going to say it the one time and refer to him from now on as Lebo M, but his full name is Lebo Hung Meraki, I think. So excuse me if I'm mispronouncing his name. But Lebo M and Claudine Jackson performed during a news conference July 30th for Disney's The Lion King. Well, let me give you some background. The Los Angeles Greyhound bus terminal was a noisy and sometimes dangerous place in the mid-1980s where Lebo M arrived there at the age of 22. He is a South African who has been performing in nightclubs in his native country since he was a child. And he found himself among those experiencing homelessness. He's jostling around trying to find a place to sleep at night. He says, I was a street beggar who has since had a dramatic reversal of fortunes and is now a Grammy-winning musician known around the world as Lebo M. Last month, Disney flew him to the Hollywood premiere of Lion King and put him up at the Ritz-Carlton. Paparazzi was at the London debut, snapped pictures of the 55-year-old, and he smiled next to Elton John and Beyonce and shook hands with Prince Harry and Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. It was the latest in a stunning string of successes for Lebo M, a producer and composer who won a Grammy Award for the song Circle of Life from The Lion King, and a singer whose memorable voice begins the opening scene in the film. He attributes his personal success to the same thing he thinks made the Lion King story so resonant. With enough heart, even those who have been cast aside can triumph. I was in the right place at the right time, he says, and I was hungry. But when opportunity came, I over-delivered. Lebo M was born in Soweto, South Africa in 1964 during the apartheid. He didn't have many outlets for his early and outsized musical talent in his humble beginnings. When he was 9, Lebo M joined a youth recreational club that offered table tennis, ballroom dancing, and music. He said that music became his refuge from the streets. He began singing jazz professionally and recorded his first single in 1977 when he was 14. 2 years later, he followed a migration of young people to Lesotho, the independent country encircled by South Africa, to pursue a musical career. He had heard about a new nightclub opening up. Shortly after he arrived, he learned that he had been exiled, forbidden by the white South African regime to return to his family in Soweto. The reason? He didn't have a passport or an ID, he said. Sorry, that was the phone ringing. Then one night, Lebo M performed before Lesotho's ambassador to the United States. Let me try to pronounce this. Tim Thahane, who noticed the teenager's vocal talent. With Thahane's help, Lebo M applied to the Duke Ellington School of the Arts in Washington and was soon accepted. Once in the district, he was taken under the wing of Union Temple Baptist Church in Southeast. Lebo M was so eager, so talented, said the Reverend Mary L. Wilson, who remembered when the teenager had stepped into her church. Lebo M noticed the African artifacts in the worship hall and proclaimed, "We're home," Wilson recalled. Wilson and her husband, the Reverend Willie Wilson, realized the youth had nowhere to sleep and invited him to stay in a spare bedroom in their home where he attended high school. She said he became one of her own children. "He still even calls us Mom and Pop," she had told everyone. Now, after graduating in 1983, Lebo M thought he had found his path to success. A music producer promised him an opportunity to record a single on the West Coast. Lebo M scratched together the money for a one-way ticket. After arriving in Los Angeles, the singer got into the producer's car, he recalled, and it turned out to be a scam. After learning that the African refugee didn't have any money, the producer dumped him by the side of the road, and he was alone in a new place. Lebo M started living in the streets. For about 2.5 years, he was homeless, sometimes staying in a shelter, sometimes at the bus station. He took jobs to get back on his feet, at McDonald's, as a parking attendant, and a music intern, but he never stopped performing. On Thursdays and Fridays, he would often showcase at Marla's Memory Lane Jazz and Supper Club in Los Angeles, and the club was owned by marla-gibbs from the Jeffersons. "That's when I was slowly coming out of the streets," he told everyone. Then, in a stroke of luck, he ran into a friend from childhood, was a bass player for South African singer and songwriter Johnny Clegg, who was in Los Angeles on a world tour. Lebo M met Clegg's producer, who gave him a job at his recording studio. "He was the T guy there, the runner," said Lebo M. "When the studio wasn't busy, I would do demos." Through the studio in 1991, he met Hans Zimmer, who had created scores for his Oscar-winning movies Rain Man and Driving Miss Daisy, and was working on The Power of One, a film set in South Africa. He and Zimmer hit it off, and they collaborated on the film. Lebo M ended up producing, co-writing, and performing the soundtrack for the film Zimmer. It was his breakout project. "That started our relationship and professional working journey," said Lebo M. "It was about that time that Lebo M got his nickname. He was touring and Quincy Jones when he was touring, and when Quincy Jones came, the interviewer, who couldn't pronounce his last name, welcome to the club, referred him to Lebo M. The shorthand reference stuck. The next year, Lebo M ended his 13-year exile and returned home as Nelson Mandela was poised to become South Africa's first black president. In Los Angeles, Zimmer began working with Disney on his unnamed African animation project, and he wanted Lebo M, I keep messing that name up, sorry, Lebo M for it. Zimmer tracked him down in Soweto, and they collaborated, and the soundtrack from The Lion King came about, which was released in 1994. The movie made more than $900 million at the box office, becoming one of the most successful animated films at all time. It opens with The Circle of Life and Lebo musical cry. And I'm not going to try to say what the movie comes out because it's in his language and I don't want to mess that up. So when it begins, that's Lebo M. When the movie begins, that's Lebo M. It's just an emotional, spiritual connecting moment in the creative process that acknowledges the presence of the King. And that was the opening chant. That chant, a mixture of the South African languages Zulu and Xhosa, was done in a moment of inspiration as the studio session started. We tried 1,000,000 takes, but we loved the first take, Lebo M said. Disney decided to translate the movie for the Broadway stage, and in 1996 brought in Lebo M to work on it. The stage production won 5 Tony Awards and became the top grossing musical in history, earning more than $58 billion. It has been seen by more than 100 million people in 19 countries. Lebo M said the power of the Lion King comes from the spiritual idea of triumph over evil. The plot involves a young lion prince exiled in shame after his father's death who returns to overthrow the new king. For Lebo M, the story is personal. He sees the Lion King as not just his own story, but also that of other people who have experienced oppression. It became a fan of the he says, I became a fan of the spiritual power of what the Lion King represents. He said, it's about immigrant, exile, refugee who comes back home and triumphantly overcomes evil to be a long-lasting, positive legacy. Lebo M has been involved in the current reboot of the movie, including collaborating with Beyonce and Zimmer for the scene with the song Spirit, and joining Beyonce at the film's European premiere in London. Lebo is my original inspiration, Zimmer says about their joint effort in a news release from Walt Disney Studios. Lebo M, who lives in South Africa, has 6 children. He has racked up stacks of awards and enjoyed the spotlight with superstars. But he still holds tight to his past, saying he identifies as a refugee and immigrant. His grounding comes from a belief he has carried with him since the boyhood in South Africa, and those nights he slept at the bus station in Los Angeles. I share inspiration that is based on a very simplistic approach, he said. The horror I'm facing today does not define my tomorrow. I wanted to just bring that article to you guys. It was so inspiring to me. Let's just take it for our own personal reference. And those of us small podcasters, and YouTube creators, his inspiration. Don't stop. It is a struggle. It is hard. We have adversity just every day for people that just want to knock us down. Like he said, like Lebo M said, for those who has been oppressed, and not just YouTube. YouTube is just a small a reference that I'm using, but from the time that a lot of us that who has been oppressed from the time we were little to adulthood, for people who think that because they were born they're better, like we wasn't born either, we were just kind of just scooped out of something. But anyway, this is such an inspiring story to just keep on keeping on, keep on reaching, keep on being hungry, keep on grinding. Whatever you're doing, whatever career you're in, whatever you want to accomplish in this world, do not stop grinding. Things are going to happen every day that just want to slap us in the face and many will get discouraged and want to give up, but never give up. Never say die. Never say die. Keep on keeping on, people. I just felt so inspired by that article. And yes, I read it. I didn't want to try to memorize it. I was afraid that I would forget something. Yes, I read it. And I don't like to do that. I like to just skim over it and then put my take on it. But I had to read it in its entirety so you can get the gist of what he went through, what obstacles came his way. Homeless, got scammed thinking he's going to do something. Somebody thinking he has money, going to try to scam him, find out that he don't have any money and just, get out of my car. Get out of my car. So there, he finds himself on homeless, but he did not stop. He kept on keeping on. Does that make sense? But you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, I'm going to end that now. I just felt compelled to do this story. Someone who starts out with nothing. And he's gotten awards. He's worked with Beyonce. He's worked with Zimmer. He performed at marla-gibbs nightclub. And those of us in California, not far from that area, we know about that nightclub. And she was in the Jeffersons, marla-gibbs. I don't think that Jazz Cup is there anymore, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't want to tell you why it's not there in case I'm wrong. But, from what I hear, it is a reason why it's not there. And not because they didn't bring in great entertainers and good people. But anyway, I'll leave that alone and maybe for another video, I'll say what happened. But anyway, thank you guys for joining me. I appreciate my supporters. Thank you all the new subscribers. Please hit that notification bell and so you can get notifications of when new videos. And let me just explain something. In different parts of the world, in different countries, things mean different. I was told by someone that I'm not supposed to say please because I'm not a beggar. I come from Queens. No, I'm not a beggar, but from where I come from, and I was born and raised in Chicago, from where I come from, it's a courtesy. It's manners. It's not anything please. When I say please subscribe, I am giving a courtesy. It's a respect thing. It's not begging. So, in some countries, they may say some things and it's not acceptable, but where I come from, please is being courteous. And I just wanted to say that. Thank you for joining me. Everyone have a good night.